From the very beginning, Luke Jeffers have decided to create a Friday show that is basically a spin-off series of Fridays with PewDiePie, but with a live stream twist. And since then, he focused heavily on tech topics, game segments, throwback segments, and more. However, there are some ups and downs towards this show for the past nearly 10 years now, and then a lot of laughters along the way. For nearly 10 years, FwL has been making you guys entertained, talking about somewhat about politics, and of course playing games. And now, for the 10th season of the row, it's time for FwLX. Today, Luke Jeffers and Betty Mooney will be going over the tech topics, playing video games, as usual of course, a return of LJPCBM throwback content, somewhat I watch segments, and many more fun. And now, here's the host of FwLX, Luke Jeffers and Betty Mooney.
Thank you, David 3000. Well, on this day, after he and I were started laughing on this difficult time, on this day, on this last episode, I was basically in shock at this difficult time. I was heartbroken. If we look back in last episode of FwX, it was basically a heartbreaking, shock, and devastating. But for this episode, we're going to go back and reflect on Robert MacNeil's life and legacy behind a career, and how much he meant to me and my inspiration to make more feel like and make films and TV shows over the years. So, without further ado, I'm going to read you two of the overall personal reads that I'm going to read you for this episode today. Okay? And while I'm doing that, I'm going to read it in the chat while we're here. This is a special tribute to Rob MacNeil. He was born Robert Regridge Rare MacNeil, of Canada. He was a Canadian-American journalist, writer, and television news anchor. He partnered with Jim Lair, who got me inspired to do film and TV shows over the years anyway, and technician work, to create a landmark public television news program, The Robert MacNeil Report, in 1975. He co-anchored the program until 1995, the year I was born. Anyway, the show eventually became the PBS NewsHour. A show described Worship Smith MacNeil wrote a couple of books in the English language, as well as 3 memoirs and fictional novels. He was born in Montreal on January 19th, 1941, the son of Margaret Ridgewell Nee Oxner, something like that, and Robert A. S. MacNeil. Okay? A Royal Canadian Navy officer in World War II, and later Canadian Fortune Service officer. He grew up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, something like that. Went to boarding school at the Rosary College School at Upper Canadian College, something like that. Then attended Donner University, later graduated from I can't pronounce his name, sorry. University in Ottawa, 1955. Anyway, MacNeil began working as a newsreel at ITV in London, then for Reuters, and then for NBC News, as a correspondent in Washington, D.C. He also works as a news anchor for WNBC in New York City. MacNeil, on November 22nd of 1963, covered President John F. Kennedy's visit to Dallas for NBC News. After shots rang out for Dallas, he passed MacNeil, who was with the President Barricade at the time, full crowds right into the grassy knoll. He also appears into a photo taken that just more as assassination. Well, seen here saying this, it was not known as a, excuse me, I forgot. It was not known. It was aimed at the president. But anyway, it was a report from NBC News. MacNeil was at the time in reality close prominently, something like that, to his featured co-anchor and partner Jim Lehrer, who got me hooked to do film and TV shows over the years. Anyway, as we said before, also covered the Kennedy visit and assassination with Dallas Times Herald. But the two didn't meet until several years later, coming to the Senate Watergate hearings in Washington, D.C. for PBS. Anyway, news anchor. In 1967, MacNeil began covering American and European politics for the BBC. From 1971 to 1974, he hosted Washington Week in Review, a public affairs television program in the public broadcasting service known as PBS at the time, which I grew up with, by the way. MacNeil rose to fame during his coverage of the 1973 Senate Watergate hearings for PBS, which he received an Emmy Award, teamed with Jim Lehrer. The two broadcasting analysts is some 250 hours and hearings in all, something like that. Some of it delayed in the night. Okay? This coverage led to inspire his most famous role, when he joined Jim Lehrer in 1975 to create the PBS daily evening news program, the Rob MacNeil Report. Lehrer renamed the MacNeil-Lehrer Report, and then renamed the MacNeil-Lehrer NewsHour. Okay? After serving 20 years of the program, Rob MacNeil retired from his nightly news program appearances on October 20th, 1995. The year I was born, by the way. Lehrer anchored the program solo until 2009, and the program continues today as the PBS NewsHour. Okay? He remained involved with the news program until 2013, the year I graduated from high school, by the way, as well as heads in the MacNeil-Lehrer Productions. Okay? Other work. Director Michael, I haven't announced his last name, sorry. 2000 modern-day adaptation Hamlet. MacNeil portrayed the player Key, who manages the TV news report. On September 11, 2001, after the terrorist attacks in New York City and Arlington, Virginia at the time, MacNeil called PBS and offered help. He joined PBS coverage of the attacks and the aftermath, interviewing reporters and giving his thoughts on the event. Anyway, in 2007, hang on. Did I something like that? Hang on. Okay, there we go. Got it. Anyway, in 2007, MacNeil hosted the PBS new television miniseries America the Crossroads, which presented independently produced documentaries about the war on terrorism. The series ran from April 15th to 20th, with 4 episodes later that year. In the Sesame Street special report, Muppet parody of Iron Carl scandal, MacNeil admits a Cookie Gate, isn't it? Involving the Cookie Monster. In 1998, for season 29's Slimy to the Moon story arc, MacNeil took the role of co-anchor for Kermit the Frog, and Slimy, Oscar Crouch Put Warm, and 4 other worms made Aladdin in the Mood. Which is pretty amazing, because I grew up with Sesame Street, and these two things were, out of the 4, were just true. Big Bird had this little balloons thing, and the other one was basically, the Grouch ice cream thing, which I'll talk about a little bit. Anyway, MacNeil chaired for the MacNeil Colony board of directors from 1993 to 2010. He was seated by Michael Colbon. Inspired by his passion in language, he made a 9-part television series, The Story of English, in 1986 for PBS and BBC, telling the development of the English language. Story of English is also a literary book, and also produced in 1986 anyway. The book and television series were written by Robert MacNeil, Robert McComb, and Robert Crane, something like that. Personal life and death, and we'll get to all his awards and bibliography. Anyway, MacNeil became a nominalized American citizen in 1997. Became an Order of Canada, something like that. Obviously that same year. Anyway, he was married to Rosemary Copeland, Jane Dory and Donna Nebby Richards MacNeil. With Copeland, he was the father of Warren Peter science designer Ian MacNeil. MacNeil is also known to be friends and family as Robin, which I call him that, by the way. He died in natural causes in New York Provisional Hospital in Manhattan on April 12, 2024. He was 93 years old. He commemorated his daughter, Allison MacNeil, which I know he has his son Nick at the time. Her son Nick at the time. Anyway, awards and honors. Anyway, in 1979, he was awarded with LHD honorary degree with Bates College. In 1997, he was awarded for the Officer Order of Canada, one of Canada's considered honors, for being one of the most respected journalists of all time. In 1990, Paul Roy Award for Radio Television Digital News Association. In 1991, he was made for the member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. In 1999, he was Television Hall of Fame with Jim Lehrer. Same in 2008, Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Journalism. In the biography, he wrote several books, made his career as a journalist. After his retirement NewsHour, MacNeil also dabbled in his writing novels. His book includes as follows: People Machine, the Influence of Television in American Politics, 1970, World Struck, a Memoir, in 1989. Where is My Dad? Steam Black and White, in 1990. Where We Were in 1963, the year Kennedy was shot in 1991. Burn Desire, 1992 by Rob MacNeil. Right Place in the Right Time, the same year, 1990. The same with Willie was. Black and White was there at the time. The Voyage, 1995, year I was born. Breaking News, a novel in 1998, which I got, by the way. Story of English with Robert McCall when I was 11 years old, okay? I discovered YouTube in 2006, okay? When I discovered Smosh first. Then some YouTube videos like SpongeBob Hand Pants, okay? Then to, some Sesame Street, not V, but, timeline video at the time. And of course, T-Tie-Z-N thing. But then, after I graduated from Georgetown Elementary School, I saw Robin. Never heard of him before. And I was only 11. But then I saw that, and then NewsHour at the time. And then I saw Cookie Gate. That was the first videos I saw. Okay? At the time. And, yeah. No one's in the chat, okay? It was late for some people, okay. Okay, but yeah, after but then some years later, I was learning my lesson about PBS NewsHour at the time. But then, meanwhile, I realized that some of the fortunes that I got at the time was very, 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 very much so, you know. But then 3 years later, after I learned my lesson, I just wrote down to Annette Miller, who's now retired, who's been the vice president of MacNeil Lab Productions, now known as NewsHour Productions LLC at the time, who told me this. I told her this, okay? I want to invite Robert MacNeil and Jim Lehrer, the late two journalists at the time, who sadly died at the time, right now, because they're still alive back then, who were going to celebrate my high school graduation at West Forest High School. And they said, basically, to Annette, they're not going because they're going to be on vacation. And they praised my high school graduation. They signed autographs for me. And I thanked Robin and Jim for it. But then the last time I saw Jim, however, was basically I wish him his 80th birthday. And then basically what followed up was I told him he was awesome. And he said, thank you for saying awesome. Onward, Jim Blair. And that's the very last time I spoke to him before he passed. But then, nearly 11 years later, he did pass after he signed his autograph. I was very shocked about this difficult time. It was last week, and I was heartbroken, devastated by the loss. Now, it was heartbreaking. I lost two of my inspirations. For me, next to Dabo, next to Bob Shaw, Ray Fox. Those are 5 inspirations. Anyway, now I'm gonna go ahead and turn up to one last thing, and then we'll get to our memorial thing, and then we'll get to our final thoughts about Robin. Okay. Anyway, Rob MacNeil, co-founder with NewsHour, dies in 93. Then I'm going to read this, and then we'll wrap things up. Anyway, Rob MacNeil, a pioneer of public media journalism, the driving force behind the shows that would become the PBS NewsHour, died last week at the age of 93. A lover of language, literature, and the arts, MacNeil portrayed with using words combined with his reported knacks would be where the actions were and was, and refusal my next move. Anyway, the symbol the news out of respect for his viewers. He convinced some of the biggest stories of his time. Okay, he was one of the grounds in Dallas when President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. He interviewed Martin Luther King Jr., Ayatollah Khomeini, Fidel Castro, and Philip Bush, British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher at the time. Anyway, he has his biggest breakthrough in the 1973 Gabba Gabba primetime coverage of Senate Watergate hearings. That Emmy-winning series of special reports was also a turning point for the future of daily news of PBS, leading to the creation of Rob MacNeil Report. But it was also renamed the MacNeil Report at the time. The MacNeil NewsHour, but there were subsidiary operations. All up to us for PBS NewsHour. Okay? As co-founder and anchor, he helped guide millions, like me, for example. I wasn't born yet until he retired. Same year he retired. But in June, not in October. But anyway, through industrial times and his initial passion and human storytelling. In the 2000 interview, MacNeil said he was in the news part of Jim Lehrer aimed at a kind of respect for conflict in the news that was already there. Their approach, he said, was based on financial fairness and objectivity, that also the idea that American public is smarter than they're often given the credit on television. They don't always need the little body size, candy size nuggets of news. Okay? Rob MacNeil is giant of journalism and most general giant. He is even just Leonard or something like that. Commands in the news standards. Will practice still on the NewsHour as an ongoing inspirational newsroom in the industry overall, said Sarah Joss, senior executive producer of the PBS NewsHour, PBS News Weekend, Sarah Washington Week, and senior vice president of WETA. I'm not going to read everything else about this, but this has to be done. He was married 3 times, including 4 years with Don MacNeil, who died in 2015, and had 4 children: Kathy, Ian, Allison, and Will, something like that, and numerous grandchildren. Well, anyway, MacNeil set out first to be an actor, but after graduating from Charleston University in Iowa, he turned to journalism, which, by the way, I was inspired by MacNeil's work. Anyway, he worked at Reuters and NBC News, which covered a wide range of stories, both abroad and home, something like that. But anyway, there's a lot of reading about this. I'm not gonna read like I did the Jim Lehrer Bank back in the day. But anyway, it's gonna be a lot of reading, so yeah. But anyway, in addition to his family, friends, and mothers, Robert MacNeil is remembered respect, gratitude, and love for those who work with him. I'm so sad, so deeply sad about the loss of his precious friend. One of the greatest honors of my life was working with Robert MacNeil and being part of the way he and Jim Lehrer changed television news. He had brilliance in urban, so like that, but base like that, but always been the flawless sense of irony, said Julie Woodruff, a senior correspondent, former anchor, and the managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. So grateful that spoken to with him in January of his birthday with iconic with deep Canadian baritone tone voice. Sound exactly as we have last anchored the NewsHour almost 4 years ago. Looking back in his career, being able to know the unique portion that the NewsHour's creation is evident for decades. Given the dozen of channels more that was doing something called news, for serious to the comic that as one of the most that stayed absolutely gimmick free and therefore is unique more than pared down, I think, than it was when we started 4 years ago. Anyways, now, before we wrap things up, let's give up a moment of silence special regard to Robert MacNeil right now. Thank you. Now, before we go, I would like to say, he was the best inspiration to me and to others, and he got me hooked to do film and TV over the years, and same with his partner in crime, Jim Lehrer, especially Danebo, the career of the enormous giants of Robert MacNeil and Jim Lehrer. I got to do this on my own, but this is a difficult time for me to do this on my own. Well, at least to say. But this is a huge, shocking way to say it, but it's a hard day for me to say on my Friday show, but that was inspired to do this show in the way. And it's celebrating 10 years this upcoming June. Now, with that in mind, that was this Friday show for the day. April 19th, 2024. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next one's going to be a brand new episode of FwL, which is supposed to be released on today on the Wear Die game. And of course some other that's supposed to be the game stuff that be played. So overall, I can't say about episode, baby. We get more FwL. We guys very soon. Till then, the Jerks ain't out. See ya.